p.m. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Ask Commissioner Stewart, if you will, lead us in the invocation and the pledge.
Thank you. Please stand with us. Heavenly Father, again, we thank you for this opportunity, God, to come and serve this county. Lord, I thank you for these men who are willing to serve. And Lord, I thank you for your mercy and grace. I ask that you just bless our county, bless our state, and bless our nation. Lord, we ask these things in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. Appreciate you joining us tonight. We have several opportunities for you to participate along with us. We have a citizens to be heard at the beginning and one at the end. You can speak on either one of those at your choice, and also you can speak on each individual agenda item. Please fill out a speaker card with Miss Patty, and when you come up, if you'll give us your name and address so the folks at home can hear as well. I know we have an add-on item for Talcon Electric to add to consent. Do we have any other changes to the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda is modified.
I second the motion.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. All right, we'll go into citizens to be heard. We'll start out with Mr. Hugh Taylor.
Yeah, I see what this is. Yeah, that's there.
Just snorting bother anybody?
No, sir. Welcome.
Okay. Tonight, being the first day of Domestic Violence Month, I would like to talk about the elephant in the room. And I think it's appropriate. It's been ignored too long. People have been reluctant to come forward. I'm ashamed of myself for not bringing it up right when I heard about it. I was brought up in a violent household, and it bugs the hell out of me to read of it from a commissioner. Enough of that. I don't know if there'll be another domestic violence resolution, but if there would, I'd like to speak before another one is signed by the chairman, as we have a sitting commissioner with a long domestic violence history, Randy Merritt. Now, I'm not as articulate as Ms. Peck or as glib as Mr. Merritt, and I'm nervous of talking about this, but I would like to say my piece about Mr. Merritt's disgusting voting record of domestic abuse. I also resent this board, especially this month, Domestic Violence Month, time after time in October, ignoring Randy Merritt's domestic family disturbance history, what most people call domestic violence. In your folders, you will find the domestic violence public records I obtained on Mr. Merritt, because anyone of his position representing our community, everyone's ignoring it, including the local news. His position he's used to keep everything under the rug. For years, I've been disappointed in that. Domestic Violence Month, we have a sitting commissioner with a number of domestic violence calls to his name, with not one commissioner raising concerns, yet voting for the resolution with absolutely nothing said about Mr. Merritt. A quote from the reports. I'll include Mr. Merritt and his wife. For brevity's sake, I've shortened it, but the whole reports, the whole sheriff's reports are available in your packets, and they're available for the public from the county now that you have accepted my reports for the record. The very fact that they have them in their possession means they are now public records and can be requested by anyone in the county or any news source. Just call for a copy, 926-0919, and ask for the Randy Merritt domestic violence packets. Some excerpts from the police reports. Upon arrival at the home, I was met by a female. She stated he hit me and choked me. Mr. Merritt did state that he hit her first. I asked if they had been drinking, and they both stated yes. After placing Mr. Merritt under arrest, I asked he be taken to jail. Mr. Merritt was charged with domestic violence as the primary aggressor. I was dispatched to the above. This is another incident. I was dispatched to the above address. I was advised the altercation had been physical. The first deputy made contact with the victim. She stated she had been hit in the face with a computer by her husband, Randall Merritt, and she was on the back porch. Then her husband came out and was irate. When Mr. Merritt reached the area where Ms. Merritt was sitting, he began yelling at her, is this what you, expletive here, did all day? Mr. Merritt continued to yell at her, then shoved the computer into her face and chin area in a hard and aggressive manner, striking her under the chin. Deputy then made contact with Mr. Merritt in the garage during this confrontation. Mr. Merritt stated he did shove the computer in Ms. Merritt's face, striking her. After explaining to Ms. Merritt the need to restate her account, Ms. Merritt immediately showed concern about the way the sheriff's office has handled the previous complaint. She did not feel as though this offense would be thoroughly investigated due to Mr. Merritt's status as a county commissioner, which is shameful. I was able to observe the red mark and small abrasions and further commented on her injuries. When asked, he stated he knew the computer would probably strike her. Deputy again. There was probable cause to believe he did commit battery against Miss Merritt. He was a primary aggressor. Mr. Merritt stated he agreed with my assessment. But if he was arrested, his career would be over. Mr. Chairman, if this was me or another citizen, certainly not anyone on board, as we have seen, involved in situations like these, one of us would be going to jail. We don't need a batterer on the board. We don't need a string-pulling commissioner taking advantage of his position, as some have done. We don't need a cover-up.
I ask you to stop that.
Thank you, sir. We do have the package, as you noted. That's a part of public record. Anyone has access to that.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, it takes kind of thick skin to be a commissioner, so he doesn't bother me. What he's talking about happened about 13 years ago. I've never been charged with domestic violence. So let him say what he wants. Welcome to election season.
He bothers me because this is nothing more than political. He picked this time to do this. He's had 8 years to do it. He chooses this time, 20 days before an election. That's nothing but a political. It's a Kavanaugh all over again.
Let's move forward through the county's business. Mr. Gerald Fielder.
I just recognize that we're having item number 10 on the board. I would like to just wait and speak at that time.
All right, sir.
That's fine?
I will give your card back to Miss Patty, and we'll change that to...
Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Joe Avera.
Joe Vera, 153 Lake Ellen Drive.
Welcome.
I'm here to speak about the proposed new ordinance on the swimming at boat ramps. I support safety, and I understand that some circumstances make safety difficult. The way that I'm reading how this thing is being drawn up is that the public is being advised to utilize private property if a boat is in the area that you guys are drawing out there. My main purpose for being here is to say that being as I am right there in that circle, our property, my wife and mine, that's not an acceptable solution to us insofar as it's trespassing, and it will be trespassing. So, I mean, I think there's a way that you could probably put it together. You may want to utilize the fence that's there and keep the public inside of that fence unless they're actually swimming through the lake, or if they're out in boats, they can swim out in the lake. But to, just draw this 300-foot arc and say that if you see a boat get out of the water, it's my property. So that was my main purpose. I want it to be known that it is my private property and it will be trespassing if the public comes on it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. County Attorney, is there anything in the ordinance that encourages people to trespass to yield the right-of-way?
It does not tell people to go onto private property. They
I'll
would need
state
to
for the
exit through the right-of-way.
I state for the record that I certainly discourage and do not believe that anyone should ever trespass on your private property. And so that is certainly not going to be encouraged and certainly not in the ordinance. Thank you, sir. That ends our citizens to be heard. We will go into awards and presentation, and we'll start out with Mr. Cleve Fleming.
Something fun.
Cleve, you can bring your better half up with you if you like. It'd make the presentation much better.
I'm going to read this in the record. Board of County Commissioners hereby recognizes Cleve Fleming for his 12 years of dedicated service and outstanding performance to Wakulla County government and its citizens, October 1st, 2018. You've done a lot. You've been here a long time, and we appreciate you very much. Appreciate it.
Brief 7-year break when I had Cleve's job. I had to
Well, I do want to address that.
Ralph, can you get a picture for the paper?
I do want to.
Want me in it. I wish you got it out of the way, maybe.
Commissioner Merritt makes it well known that he used to have my job. But what Commissioner Merritt keeps failing to tell everybody, I hired him when he was a snot-nosed little kid. He worked under me, and I trained him to do my job. Mm-hmm. So maybe you can train me to be a county commissioner one day.
Junior. Yeah.
Well, when I hired Commissioner Merritt, one of the admin staff got aggravated with him and threatened to turn him over her knee and spank him.
That'd be Bobby, right?
Yep.
Bobby Stevens.
But I've enjoyed my time in Wakulla County, and I've enjoyed working with you. But I'm not leaving Wakulla County. I'm actually leaving ESG also. Towards the end, I'm closing some stuff out with ESG, and I'll be. I've got plans to the end of the year. Then I'm going to decide what I'm going to do. But I'm just moving on to something else. Our home is here, and our children were raised here, so we plan on staying here. So I definitely enjoyed working with the county and working with the county staff. And over the years, I have been so diligent in my assignments, projects, agenda items. I was always on time, and I was working hard. And anytime they asked for an update, I gave them the update. In progress. So I want to hand this to Patty, because she's the last one standing. I wore Jessica and Brandy out. Even the attorney gave up on me, because I'm always in progress. I'm from day one, I'm in progress. But I'm going to hand this over to Patty, so they'll remember me.
I had an ongoing joke with Cleve that I would call him at 4 o'clock on Friday afternoon and give him something to do.
I don't know what the joke was. You called me.
Cleve, if you get bored, I'll forward some phone calls about rough roads to you. I know we always love those.
I told Mike King that I was going to buy a new house. I was going to have a dirt road on one side of my house and a paved road on the other side, and I was going to call and complain every day. Because I've heard every complaint from citizens, and most of them are legitimate, and some of them are a little out there. including county commissioners. Same thing.
Yes.
But, like I said, I have enjoyed it, and like I said, we're not going anywhere, and we plan on being part of the community.
And Cleve and I talked about this years ago. This is a job you can't win at. If it's too dry, that means, and I'm going back to when we ran mosquito control. If it's dry, at least you don't have a lot of mosquitoes, but the roads are too rough and the roads are too dusty. If it's too wet, the grass grows too much. You got to mow the road, and you got more mosquitoes.
Yep.
And then the roads are too wet.
And the minute that grader passes the front of a person's house is 1 minute closer, it needs to be graded again.
That's right.
So, we've heard it all. So, but again, I appreciate the people in Wakulla County, appreciate the commission, and you've got a great staff here, and I wish y'all good luck in the future, because I'm going to be filling out them citizens to be heard cards in the future.
You remember John McHugh said that he's going to be an active citizen when he left? We never saw him again.
Well, you might not see me again.
Don't leave the county, because we need all the Auburn people in the county that we have very few, and we don't want to leave, we don't want to miss one more, so.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I can, I've probably known Cleve as long as anybody, as a commissioner at least. He is a gentleman. He has been a wonderful corporate sponsor of this county. He has poured tons of money through that organization into this county to helping fund different organizations and funding this and that. And I helped raise 2 of his kids through the ROTC program at the high school, and got to know he and his wife both very well and become good friends. I hate to see Cleve go. I'm glad to see that you're going to be able to enjoy the rest of your life now doing something that you want to do, and not having to put up with complaints from commissioners and citizens. But you did a lot of stuff that people don't know about, and I thank you for that, and good luck to you in the future.
Okay. And you still owe me a dinner, because I did complete the project on time.
I know that.
Even though it was in progress up to the last minute, but I did finish it on time.
One more thing was, he always sat in that back row back there, and my first wife, Ann, who's now gone on, they always joked, always had a joke, and they were always laughing at us and making fun of us. But
that's one of my fondest memories of this board meeting, was sitting back there with
she
Ann
was fond
making
of you.
fun
So good luck to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate
Hey,
it.
I don't have to stay to the end, so bye.
I hope you'll come back and see us.
Don't blame him.
All right. Next, Commissioner Hess, regarding the Florida Native Plant Month in Wakulla County.
Okay. Native Plant Society asked me to bring forward this proclamation. Basically, I've always talked about how important our diversity of our locale is, how we've got, adventures in every direction. And most of that diversity that comes here in our location comes from our plants. Within a short drive, you can see many, many fabulous displays of floral diversity around Wakulla County. It's a real benefit to our community. Some species are only in Wakulla County, and others we pass on a regular basis as we drive down the roads. They're really common. Certain species, our wildlife is dependent on them, like the milkweeds, and October happens to be the month of most diversity. You can stop right there. The most diversity, in our plants bloom that's taking place, and so right now it's really out there in the forest for people to look at. And we have a proclamation that we hear about our native plants, and naming October Native Plant Month.
You want to go ahead and do your agenda item,
Chuck? I would like to go ahead and read the proclamation, and we can vote on it at that time if you want. Proclamation declaring October 2018 as Florida Native Plant Month in Wakulla County. Whereas Florida native plants and plant communities are rich and diverse, are essential in the natural environment in sustaining bees, butterflies, and other animals, and thus provide benefits to Wakulla citizens that cannot be overstated and must be preserved for future generations. And whereas Florida and particularly Wakulla County, have an incredible wealth of natural areas to showcase our native plants and native plant communities to our citizens and visitors alike. And whereas Wakulla County enjoys over 1,000 species of native plants, trees, vines, and shrubs, including zephyr lilies, blazing stars, grass pinks, Stokes aster, wild azaleas, saw palmetto, night flowering petunia, 19 species of carnivorous plants, and 15 species of milkweed, which all support ecotourism by drawing thousands of visitors from all over the world to our roadsides and these unique spots within the county where these and similar plants can be seen in abundance. And whereas Wakulla County is home of many in Florida native and national and champion trees, also grows groves of Aguchi Tupelo, which is the foundation of the Tupelo honey industry, and features miles of roadways graced with native wildflowers that also support the pollinators that benefit local agriculture. And whereas Wakulla County's complement of native plants features species such as whose global range lies entirely within Wakulla County, including St. Mark's yellow-eyed grass and Godfrey's spider lily. And whereas the Sarracenia chapter of the Native Plant Society, whose mission is the conservation and preservation of restoration of native plants and plant communities, serves Wakulla County and is helping keep Wakulla County natural. Now and therefore, the Board of County Commissioners of Wakulla County convened this first day of October 2018, declares that the month of October in 2018 as Florida Native Plant Month in Wakulla County.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any citizens that would like to speak on that? Further discussion from the board?
I've got 100 acres of beautyberry that you might want to look at sometime. Just give me a call. I mean, it is absolutely, I don't know how they got there, but they're there.
Very good. Further discussion? Hear none? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you. Next, we'll hear a presentation relating to the prevention of bullying from Ms. Donna Clark with the Wakulla County Health Department.
Good evening. I'm actually here to introduce some of my staff, but just to preface the presentation, most of you have been at the Department of Health. If you haven't, I encourage you to come by and see the upgrades we've done. As well as most of you know, we do have a clinic and we have environmental health. But you probably don't know about all the other programs that we do have to offer. We've been in front of you to talk to you about risky behaviors with kids, and one of them is bullying. We have been here in the county since 2013 with what's called Sexual Risk Avoidance Program. But it's not just about sex, it's about risky behaviors. Drinking, drugs, cyberbullying, sexual activity as a teenager. This year, I have two of my staff members back here. One of them, with her partner, decided to make October a very important month for the county. And I'm going to turn it over to her, but I'm going to introduce them both first. We first have Tracy Bourgeois and Quinicia Arnold, and they're both health educators. Our program ended September 30th, my grant did, but I'm happy to announce that we applied for it, and we got not only $200,000, but I applied for additional 50. So we have $250,000 for this next year to go out and talk to our teens and parents, grandparents, not just about the risky behaviors, about social media, bullying, what parents need to know about technology. If you guys know of anyone that wants this information, it's free. We come to you. We'll go to your church, your house, your work, and give you information that's very valuable because our teens need it. Our teens need our parents and our grandparents and anybody involved in their lives. But it has my name down on this, but I didn't have anything to do with this. Quinicia is the one that's been doing all the contact, and I'm going to turn it over to her.
Thank you. Good evening. So while I was preparing for the National Bully Prevention Month, we get a presentation, or we have a presenter that's coming to the high school in November to do 4 assemblies to go over cyberbullying, sex, and all the things that are social media bullying, physical bullying. And so I stumbled across PACERS, which is the National Bully Prevention Center out in Minnesota, and they have a national day that they set aside in October, which is the 4th Wednesday of every month, 4th Wednesday of October every year, and it's called Unity Day. I looked and nobody nobody around in the county, in the surrounding counties have even participated in this event. So I felt like it was something that we need to bring into Wakulla County, because when I'm in the classroom, the students, when I talk about the bullying part of our segments, they're like, well, who do I talk to? Who do I go tell? Who do I get help from? So what I want them to do is know that there's people all throughout the community that's going to be able to help them, be advocates for them. So on October 24th, we'll be having, you have the flyer, the Unity Day down at Hudson Park, from 4 to 7, and it's a half day for the students. And what we'll do is we'll have vendors out there. We'll have a couple of people speaking. If any of you guys want to come out and speak, that'll be great as well, just to show that we have advocates everywhere in every aspect of Wakulla. That day we want everybody to wear orange, because that's the color that's going to be, that represents the bully prevention for them, so they can recognize that I'm going to be an advocate for you, and I'll be able to get some help for you if you need to. It's kind of dear to me because I was bullied when I was in kindergarten. Ms. Donna probably didn't even know that, but I was bullied in kindergarten by a third grader. So I feel like I have to be that voice for those kids that don't know how to say anything. And so we've already reached out to a couple of business partners in the area. They're going to change out some of their lights on their signs for that week to have it go. So we want to have Wakulla United, and they're going to go orange that week. Also on October the 19th, we're going to be doing this really big bully prevention at the RMS versus WMS game. I can't give you any details because it's a surprise, but I want everybody to come out to that game. It's going to be something spectacular. So, but if you guys can come out and support, that'd be great.
Wait a minute, Governor.
Oh, yes. Governor Scott, as I was researching this, I sent an email to his office to try to get, because you can get a proclamation for Bully Prevention Month. Well, unbeknownst to me, the day that I sent the email, he had just signed the proclamation for the state of Florida to be recognized as the October for the National Bully Prevention Month for the state of Florida as well. So we'll have those proclamations, and we partnered up with the school board, and we're going to put one of those signed proclamations in every school in the county, as well as a poster of bully statistics, so that the kids can have that and know that they can come and review that information as well. So that's a big deal.
So orange is the color to wear
Yes.
on what day?
October 24th,
Okay,
4 to 7
4 to 7
p.m.
p.m. Hudson
4 to
Park.
7 p.m., Hudson Park.
okay, good.
Yes, we have some guest speakers coming. Brian Miller is going to be there to talk about the prosecution side of it, how they take bullying seriously, and how you also get tagged in the system at the school system. If you're labeled as a bully or get a referral as a bully, then it goes on with you. We're going to have some TCC athletes come out, and they're going to do some signatures and sign some autographs and play around with the kids. It'll be volleyball nets out. We'll have some food. We'll have a couple of guest speakers from the actual university from TCC that's going to come out and talk as well. And then we also have one of the school board members that are going to come out and be speakers. So we're still getting more speakers. If anybody knows anybody or wants to partake in it, just let me know. I do have to run to Tallahassee because I live in Tallahassee, but my heart is in Wakulla. I got to pick my kid up from school, but Donna will be here. So she will have any information if you want to get in contact with us also.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Motion to approve consent.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Any further discussion? Hear none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. That moves us, let's see, no general business, moves us into public hearings, item number 8.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request of board approval to conduct a public hearing and adopt an pertaining to regulation of swimming and boating near public boat ramps. We've had various iterations of this item before you several times over the past few months, most recently at your September 4th meeting where you gave us direction to bring this item back. What this item does is prohibit swimming at public boat ramps except for Lake Ellen, Upper Bridge, Lower Bridge, Newport Park, and the Shell Point non-motorized hand launch. And it also creates idle zones over all of the boat ramps that don't already have idle zones where swimming will be allowed, so that we have slow boats always around swimmers.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We have a couple of citizens. We'll start out with Miss Bonnie Basham.
Good evening. I am Bonnie Basham, and I daytime life, I represent the boat owners of the United States. And while I haven't had a chance to read your ordinance, and I appreciate the public hearing that you're going to have, and I'll be there, I'm very concerned as a 66-year boater about boaters and swimmers, even at slow speed, in the same area. So I look forward to being able to read your ordinance and attend your hearing.
If I may clarify, this is the public hearing. And,
Oh, I'm so
the
sorry.
decision is scheduled to be made tonight.
Oh.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'm a day late and a dollar short, but I hope that there's some way to keep boaters and swimmers separate. They don't mix, and the whole issue of lack of attention when a boater is trying to boat, even at slow speed, it's a recipe for disaster as far as I'm concerned. And
Could you explain the statement about the 300 feet and they have to get out of the water and this, that, and the other?
Yeah, the way this is set up is at the boat ramps where swimming will be allowed. It will only be allowed if there is not a boat within 300 feet, so a boat that's not launching or returning. Then people will be allowed to be in the water. Otherwise, swimming is not allowed.
okay.
And I guess we'll have signage for that.
That's correct.
I think the main thing for the 300 feet is to give law enforcement something with some teeth. If they go to a boat ramp, for example, and people won't get out of the water, now they can, right, Mike? Now they have a law, they can make them get out of the water.
Well, then I stand corrected, and thank you for educating me.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
I would have a question on this, is that some of our boat ramps have neighbors within 300 feet. This doesn't apply to the people swimming at the neighboring property, right?
Well, it's going to be anytime somebody is accessing the water from our boat ramp.
It's only for the people accessing the water from the boat ramp. It's not from somebody accessing the water from the neighboring property.
That's correct.
Okay.
Next, we have M.B. Adelson.
I'm going to take a wild guess you're an attorney.
Good guess. Welcome.
I'm also a woodworker.
Harder than I look.
I was a Boy Scout. I'm a retired Army officer. How long do you want me to go through? I'm here as an attorney on behalf of Mr. Steve Fultz, but I'm also here as a good citizen. Long roots in Florida. I've been before this commission, not before you gentlemen, but I come with an olive branch, and I come bringing you some experience that may help. That's my intention. I'm a old grizzled veteran of many rulemaking efforts and rulemaking challenges. You'll have to speak up a little bit. Some of us can't hear quite so well. I'm sorry, sir. I'm an old veteran of rulemaking and rule challenges and that sort of thing. I've had an opportunity to briefly review the ordinance now under consideration here in item 8, and I would like to offer a couple of comments that might help with better informed decisions, better law enforcement, constitutional parameters, that sort of thing. One of the adjacent neighbors to one of the boat ramps that would be affected by this ordinance is very concerned that people trying to comply will not exit the water through the boat ramp. They'll come right up on his yard because the 300-foot arc that's described in the ordinance says get out of the water, but it doesn't remind or even suggest enforcement that if you're a visitor to this area, you can only access and egress the waters that you're swimming in via what is authorized to not be a trespass, which is that easement area. You might, for purposes of law enforcement as well as purposes of property rights, want to amend the ordinance to clarify that people that don't live there have to go in and out of the water via the boat ramp. The next thing is, this is an easement in Joe and Mr. Fultz's particular circumstance. And you have item 10 coming up, and I'm going to hopefully get to address you for just a minute about that. Back in July of 2017, and I hope I pronounce this correctly, Miss Encinosa wrote
all professional respect, it's a very good memorandum. And she raised some issues about she wasn't sure that this was a good place or an authorized place to emplace what the county is seemingly going forward with trying to emplace. It's an easement. It talks about access and egress. It does not talk about a park. It does not talk about other effects on the adjacent homeowners. I am looking into this on behalf of Mr. Fultz, and I'm trying to catch up with the board and with the people that are interested. I readily admit I've come late to the party, and I'm not trying to be pretentious about it. But I have some grave concerns about we all need to make well-informed decisions, the homeowners and the elected officials that govern them. I'm saying this peacefully. I'm not saying it to poke anybody in the eye. I'm saying when you make well-informed decisions, people then consent to be governed according to those decisions. I am certain, based on my research, that I can tell you in good faith that there is no state land ownership in the submerged land in Lake Ellen. And that's the reason I'm saying, first of all, we got to be careful with this 300-foot arc to make sure that law enforcement doesn't have a terrible problem about, is it a homeowner that can go into their yard, or is it a member of the public who can only go on the boat ramp?
Can you bring it into a
Yes, sir.
close?
I'm saying that the ordinance is still not clear enough, and it might be a wise idea, and I offer this humbly because I've been where you are. You might want to make one more pass at revising some of the language, and it would solve a lot of the problems in terms of clarity and enforceability. So on this item, if you would please consider some short continuance, like even to your next meeting, I can certainly present some ideas to your attorney and have that considered. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you joining us. All right, that ends our citizens on that item. Do we have any further discussion?
I don't have any problem with what he said about making sure people exit the boat ramp not on somebody else's property. Now, on the other ramps, there's submerged land issues, where as long as you're not on their property above the mean high water line, then you're not trespassing. But Lake Ellen's different. It is a privately owned lake bottom. There are no sovereign rights to it.
Potentially. That is not a definitive, there's not been a definitive legal answer on that.
I mean, I don't personally have a problem with saying if you're going to exit the water body because of the law, the 300-foot law,
I think that goes without saying that you can't trespass. I don't think we were certainly intending to condone trespassing. If you all want to have clarifying language included, it's not going to change the main intent of this ordinance, and it's not going to impact the title. You could do that tonight and still vote on the ordinance.
Yeah, I would request some clarifying.
I mean, it's still illegal to trespass regardless,
I know.
so none of that changes.
I mean, we could add clarifying language for Lake Ellen that they need to exit and enter only through the boat ramp.
Well, I have no problem with signage that specifies that as well, because I've said from the very beginning, I only want the public to have access to the public access areas. I don't want anyone to step foot on Joe's property or Steve's property, and I've been consistent with that.
Yeah, and I think that
Submerged
goes
or other.
along with being a good neighbor.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How are you going to regulate the speed in Lake Ellen? I haven't...
There'll be signage, and these have to be permitted through FWC, and there'll be signage, and the idle zones will be marked like any other water body.
So you're going to mark idle zones out in the middle of the lake?
I don't know where the markers go. Cody does that through FWC, but they do mark them.
They'll have to be permitted.
But I don't think it goes.
Yeah,
just like in the river or anywhere else.
We can only put it on the county property, obviously.
Yeah, I don't.
That's the problem.
Well, you could only put it on county property.
Yeah.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion?
Is the motion include clarifying language for Lake Ellen that they need to ingress and egress through the boat ramp?
I'll second
Who
that.
who made our second? Mike? You modify the second to reflect that?
Be fine.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hear none? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. All right, that ends our public hearing. We have no planning and zoning items tonight. We have handled the one commissioner agenda item, so we will go to the county attorney, item number 10.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I'll be recusing myself on this one.
So will I recuse myself on this one?
And that's because you both own property on Lake Ellen, correct?
On or around it.
We're requesting board direction on a couple matters regarding Lake Ellen. There is two potential administrative challenges that the board should be aware of in the event they come to fruition. I have been made aware of a pending consent order. I don't believe it's been finalized, at least as of Friday afternoon. It had not. Between FDEP and Mr. Foltz concerning the fence that he has constructed on the waters of Lake Ellen that at one point had completely closed off any access from the county rights-of-way into the open waters. At this point, I believe there is a 10-foot section open. As a substantially impacted party, you do have the ability to challenge any final consent order. The consent order as I've seen it, which was draft, I think it's been changed since then, but I've not seen the revised version, basically would allow the fence to remain in its current configuration, and there are pictures at the end of the proposed consent order, which is an attachment to your agenda item for you to look at. But would require Mr. Foltz to then, within 30 days, apply for a permit for the fence to be permanently located. He would have to go through permit hearings or permit proceedings, and DEP would either approve it or deny it. In the event you did not want to get involved in the consent order, in order to successfully challenge a consent order, we would basically have to show that the consent order is not going to help them achieve compliance. If you did not want to challenge the consent order, you would have an opportunity to intervene and participate and challenge the fence permit in the event that it is challenged or it is granted and the county's substantial interests are impacted at that point. For example, if the fence was allowed to remain as it is right now, I think there are definite safety and navigational hazards that configuration would create. It basically leaves a slim 10-foot opening for boats and swimmers to go from the county's right-of-way and the primitive ramp that will be there into open waters. And so you'd have a real narrowed bottleneck right there. In the event that the fence configuration changes, we may need to come back to you, but right now we are looking for board direction on whether you want to challenge the consent order, or if not, whether you would want to challenge a future permit that would allow the fence at the end of Lake Ellen Drive to impact any of our access from the right-of-way into the waters. So I can tell you what I would recommend. I'm letting you know that you have both of these opportunities. I think that's incumbent upon me. I am not recommending that you challenge the consent order. I don't think that you need to. I think there's a fence permitting process that would occur after that, and at that point in time, if the county's substantial interests are impacted, we can always intervene at that point.
Mr. Chairman, I move that it finalized to direct the county attorney to file a petition for administrative hearing challenging any subsequent permit allowing a fence or other obstructions along the north end of Lake Ellen Drive.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. We have a couple of speakers. Mr. M.B. Adelson.
Thank you, Commissioners. I would hope that we can resolve this without any litigation. I'm here this evening to let you know I'm representing Mr. Foltz. The consent order is still in process. I've spoken with DEP several times, and we're amending some language to make sure that at least the consent order will allow some time for the permit to be submitted. We've engaged a very respected, and I don't want to name names, but she's been before the commission before. And she's helping us make sure that as good a permit, as compliant a permit as we can submit is what's going to be submitted. Now, this raises the larger issue of this may be premature because I mentioned I was unable to find any sovereignty submerged land ownership. And now I'm investigating from an easement point of view who has what riparian rights. I want to disclose in fairness. I teach national webinars in boundaries and easement law, and I start and begin and end those things with folks. When the lawyers are done, these people are still neighbors. The commission, the homeowners, included as neighbors. And I tell them it's very important that we act that way. So what I'm hoping to do, I've come late to the party. I'm rushing to catch up. But now I want to take a look at easement law and the facts of this case. I want to have an opportunity, and I was invited graciously by the county administrator. I said, I don't want to go over your head. I don't want to go behind your back. He's encouraged me to contact and have some discussions with Ms. Encinosa, which I hope we'll find some time to do. She is very knowledgeable in easement law. I am certain we can have some professional discussions and compare ideas. I would rather, if I get a vote, to resolve this through either negotiation and or some mediation if we need that. The last thing in the world I'm looking for here is litigation. I may need to do a quiet title so that, again, the informed decision can be looked at and made by everyone. But perhaps we can come to some conclusion about the commission and their interest in some easement rights according to a subdivision plat and that line of thinking, and then what it says in the deed record and the successive owner's record about what really is the burden that's allowable as the servient parcel and the dominant parcel in this particular situation. It's unique. It's not at all like your other boat ramp areas that you're addressing and other places where there are public waters. If I'm able to present information, not decisions, not in your face, but information that says this is a privately owned lake, that's going to be one way of looking at all the other cases that I've found that says when a public right-of-way is adjacent to sovereignty submerged land, to public submerged land. There's a big difference. I haven't found it definitively yet, but I'm finding some things that we all, I hope, have a chance to look at. So thank you for giving me a minute to address this issue. Again, I would ask for a very short, let's think about this for the sole purpose of your very knowledgeable and very professional attorney and the concerns she raised in your July 12, 2017 memorandum. I think for everyone's benefit to make a well-informed decision, we need to answer a little more depth in these questions. And I hope I'll have an opportunity to do that without having to go and ask a court to do a temporary injunction and all that. I so don't want to do that, gentlemen. I so don't want to do that. And you don't know me, but I'm here in complete good faith, and I would rather take the track that all of us, at the end of the day, 2 + 2 = 4. And I need a little more time to develop that information.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Next, Mr. Gerald Fielder.
Gerald Fielder, 6 Bottlegate Court, Crawfordville. And I'm been trying to educate myself on all of this. I don't want anything that, belongs to someone else. And so I've made a trip to DEP. I have the original papers that I asked for from you last time I was here concerning all this matter. And I asked some of those in DEP and also in Fish and Wildlife. Is Lake Ellen a public lake or is it a private lake? And they informed me that this was a public lake. It was a public lake. Now, concerning the safety issues, I know one has talked about safety issues. No one wants anyone to get hurt on a lake or anyone else. But I have on my telephone the phone number of the dam up at Talquin Lake that I call periodically to find out the water height. And I know that those individuals up there, they have done everything they can do for safety If you've been on the lake and you go toward the dam, there's a big rope or cable across with buoys. In other words, don't go past this. And you can call that number, and they say on that safety is a two-way street. It's a two-way street. They've done everything they can do for safety. Now it's up to the other individuals who's going to use the lake to be saved. And that's just the way it is down here with Lake Ellen. We can do everything that we can do as far as safety. We can say, put signs up and do everything we can do. But safety's a two-way street. People that use the lake have to be safe in that. And I would, encourage us to move on. We did have one, question about why did we, pull the permitting for the boat ramp from DEP. But I think I'm getting more educated, perhaps maybe why you did that. But I'm hoping that we can move forward and put there what belongs to the public. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That ends our citizens.
Mr. Chairman, one quick clarifying, to his comments, we're not, by voting on this, you're not initiating litigation. We're going to watch that permitting process. If it comes to it where a fence is granted that impacts the county's rights and the ability for the public to use the boat ramp that you all have directed to be put in there, the primitive ramp, and impedes access to the open waters of the lake, that is at the point where we would intervene in the administrative process, but not until then.
I think basically cutting that horsepower, the motor down to 25 horsepower, as an uneducated guess, that would eliminate 80% of the potential problems as we drop that horsepower down to 25.
Further discussion? Hear none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 3-0. County Attorney, anything further?
Nothing this evening.
Acting County Administrator.
You sure do make that seat look a lot better.
Amen.
If I may say that.
David's back home, right?
Yes.
Citizens to be heard, number 2? None. Discussion items from commissioners?
Nope.
Nope. None for me? None.
Motion adjourned.
Wow. We stand adjourned. Thank you all for coming out tonight.